Okay, okay. Not sure if this live will be posted to YouTube after, but I am currently trying to get this set up. Okay. There we go. What's good? I'm not even sure if this is going to be a good time to stream or not, but just figured might as well talk some hockey briefly because I'm pretty sick of watching this football game. Tom Brady's getting destroyed right now by the Rams, which doesn't happen too often, but oh boy, we've already got an interesting comment. Kadri Kadri trade worst of all time. Okay, so explain to me why it's the worst trade of all time. Because do you know the backstory about that trade is the question. If you because you're allowed to have an opinion, but do you know the backstory why it happened? Because there's quite a lot of people like to skip over. Why is it saying my connection's unstable? So explain explain the worst trade of all time. No, I think the Manson stuff, I don't think a lot of people wanna hear this, but I think the, Josh Manson stuff is blown out of proportion. Um, I don't understand why the Anaheim Ducks, who are competing right now, would trade him. I don't really see why they would do that. He's physical, he's a top 4 defenseman, he takes on a lot of minutes, and they're competing, and they have the ability to keep him. So I'm not really sure why that would make any sense for Anaheim, to be real with you, because it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, as a Leaf fan, of course, I'd love Manson. I think it would be awesome to have him. Um, there's 2 reasons why I believe that this deal is either gonna price the Leafs out from what they're comfortable with, because technically they have the assets to get it done. Um, and 2, I just don't think Anaheim would wanna make that move because Anaheim's competing. The reason why I think like, Anaheim's in the driver's seat when it comes to a trade because if the team like, let's say Dubas actually called up Anaheim and was like, "Yeah, we want Josh Manson." They'll say, "Good, because I mean, we want a king's ransom." Why? Because we don't have to get rid of him. We're competing, and he's a top 4 defenseman, so they'll be like, "Yeah, listen, we want a first round pick and a prospect." And the Leafs are gonna go, "Wow. Okay, that's a lot." And it might be more than that, who knows? Like, Anaheim doesn't have to trade him, and that's what people don't understand is that it's not necessarily the Leafs are just gonna call up a team with any top 4 defenseman, and it's just gonna, "Oh, we have the pieces to get him, so we'll get him." No, it's like, it has to make sense for both teams. So if the Ducks think, "Okay, well, he's an unrestricted free agent," then okay, let's just trade him. They're gonna want pieces that'll help them in the very near future because they're still building, but they're closer to what the Leafs did, a few years ago where they overachieved and they were actually playing pretty well. So I don't think the Ducks would want like too far out future pieces. Yeah, so that's the backstory. So I don't understand how that's a bad deal for Toronto because Naz did veto that trade. Now, mind you, the other part of that story is that Kadri got suspended in 2 straight playoffs. After the first time, the Leafs said, you know, you shouldn't be doing that, and then he went out and did it again. Now, my Kadri was my favorite player. Like, that upset me the most. Kadri was easily my favorite player, and the thing is you can't Kadri was doing nothing. He was in the press box. Every time we needed him the most, he got suspended. So, we could have players that are actually playing in those games, or we could have a guy that got suspended because then he got suspended again in Colorado. So, um, I would just imagine that this year, hopefully, he's learned his lesson and things go well for him. But I'm not really gonna blame Dubas for that because the guy was sitting in the press box. He wasn't doing anything because he was suspended. And he's having an amazing year this year. Why? Because he's just playing the game. He's not being the Kadri of before. Because Kadri had to take runs at guys, he had to fight and this, that, and the other, and then he thought he would have to do that again in Colorado, but then they kinda were like, "Dude, slow your roll. You're our other centerman that's gonna give us a lot of points, so stop going out there and playing the old Naz way. You're still gonna be physical, you're still gonna be gritty, but you're not going out there taking runs at guys." Now he's playing better. It's simple, and I don't blame Dubas for that trade. I mean, This the other part of that too is that Mike Babcock completely sabotaged that entire trade too. Tyson Barrie would have had a much more value to the Toronto Maple Leafs than what he actually did. When he came in, he was an offensive juggernaut. The Leafs had him at a pretty decent price at the time. Babcock said, "You're no longer a offensive defenseman. You're gonna be a shutdown pairing defenseman." That's like going and telling a guy like William Nylander and being like, "Dude, like, now you're a shutdown forward. You're only playing defense. You can't play any offense. You have to literally shut down the opponent." It makes no sense. Okay, but you're but Hamza, listen, I understand where you're coming from here, but, like, it he was in the press box. I would rather somebody on the ice than a guy that's not playing. Like, they were not playing. He wasn't playing. And Marner was absent too, yeah, but I mean, at least he was on the ice. I mean, hell, we need guys that can play. If we're gonna be paying those guys, they have to at least be on the ice. Like, Kadri kept getting suspended. So, it's an unfortunate situation, but and again, Kadri was my favorite player. I've said it a million times. People have heard it in many videos. I was disappointed when he kept getting suspended, and, I was disappointed, when he got traded. But the situation, he had to do it. Um, Also, like, as much flack as Marner takes for the playoffs, like, up until last season, I'm pretty sure Marner was, like, the leading point scorer in the playoffs for the Leafs. Like, unfortunately, like, Marner actually was kinda decent in the playoffs until the last couple seasons. But I do believe that, while I'm not one of these people that blames everything on Dubas. I do think that if they get bounced in the first round, his job is done. And then whatever GM comes in probably wants to put his stamp on the team. So they'll trade probably one of Tavares or Nylander. I don't think Marner or Matthews would go anywhere. I don't agree with that, but I think that any GM that comes in will look at Matthews and Marner as the centerpieces, and then everybody else is pretty much fair game. But um, that's the off season. I wanna worry about right now and leading up to the trade deadline. Um, but no, people don't understand my PK Subban reasoning. And first of all, I also didn't say that that was my idea. Like, people went nuts. Like, insane nuts when I posted that video. I'm not saying the Leafs are going after PK Subban. I said they could have the opportunity to get double retention and have him at a stupid low price and literally just put him on the third pairing to be a physical guy for them as depth. I didn't say we're gonna put him on the top pairing and play him 30 minutes a night. Like, I don't think people understood that. I also was recommended to make this video about PK Subban. I was asked, somebody DM'd me nicely and said that they were a fan of PK Subban. Would it be possible? And I actually DM'd the person saying, "No, I don't think it's gonna happen," but I gladly made the video because I tell people in every video, if you have an idea, send it to me. I'll make a video on it. And yeah, so that was the reasoning for the PK Subban video. Um, Fill the thrill. I don't think that I mean, technically, he would be a good depth piece for the Leafs, but, um, I don't really know how that trade would work out, and I don't really know if Phil would wanna come back, to be honest with you. I think Caberlet was really good in his time. I see people talking about, defensemen. Mike, none of those trades that you're talking about are happening, unfortunately. I'm not sure if you're trolling or whatever, but, like, it's definitely not happening. Yeah, honestly, like, Kessel coming back would be interesting because, like, he technically can give you that offensive depth. Like, I think people think Kessel's, like, some washed up, like, hockey player, but no, he's still pretty good. Ben Hutton's not very good. The the idea of keeping Hall was because Hall was really, really good the previous season. Like, we can't sit here and say Justin Hall wasn't good, um, because Hall was really good and he was at a $2 million cap hit. But then obviously this year he hasn't been good. So in hindsight, obviously I'd rather have McCann. But Gojin didn't want to stay because of how Ontario's controlling what's going on right now. So he didn't want to stay. He wanted to go back home. Manson isn't a fit. Oh, Manson's definitely a fit. If Manson was available, he would be a fit for the Leafs 100%. Sherratt, no. At first, I was like, "Okay, maybe Sherratt would make sense," but boy, guys, Sherratt's defensive numbers, like, he's brutal. Like, he's slow and he's not good at playing defense. Yeah, and Derek, see, people don't understand that either. Like, sure, there's an idea that an offensive defenseman doesn't make sense, but it actually does. Also, yeah, no, guys like Sherratt and Zdeno Chara are slow and don't really do anything. Yeah, but see, but Manson's also younger, first of all, and he plays a different style. And God, no, Muzzin shouldn't go. The reason why I believe Muzzin hasn't been up to par, first of all, is because Hall's having some pretty bad luck this year. I don't think he's playing very good. But like, I actually agree with a lot of people saying that Muzzin is still pretty beat up. Like, I don't think Muzzin is fully recovered from his injuries. What I want the Leafs to do is hopefully clinch an early playoff spot at some point and then rest Muzzin until the playoffs. I don't care what happens to their positioning in the standings. Literally let Muzzin get healthy. Well, the Muzzin Hall pairing's been brutal, but I mean, I'll say what people don't want to say. I love Liljegren and Sandin, but I disagree with what Sheldon Keefe said last night. I don't think that they were good last night. I think Liljegren and Sandin were terrible. Like, they looked brutal. I don't know why people seem to think they had a really good night last night. I think they were pretty bad. Um, but I'm not one of these guys that just attaches to one player and, like, praises them and says that they can do no wrong. Like, I love Liljegren and Sandin. Like, I've been fighting for Liljegren to play for this team. No, I'm not just thinking of the hits on Liljegren. I'm talking about the errant passes and the missed assignments in the defensive zone. They both of them were playing scared last night, and that's not good. Usually, Sandin and Liljegren are pretty, like, they're tougher guys, honestly. Like, they've played a physical game in the Marlies, and for a small guy like Sandin, he actually does play pretty physical. But they both looked brutal last night. I think I just yeah, they are. That's the problem is they're trying to do too much. I mean, once they play with more experienced guys, they're much better, and I mean, they're still young, like, they have to grow into this position, and I think they're both gonna be fantastic defensemen, but, right now, they're not living up to their full potential, and that's fully okay because they're still really young, so, um, yeah, I'm not against Klingberg, honestly, I think a lot of people are just because he's more offensive defenseman, whatever. But you do need that offense from the blue line, and like the earlier comment said, you need to open up the ice, you need to have a shot from the blue line because nobody thinks that and no, Klingberg is not ass Dukes '07. I mean, I'm not really sure why you're saying that. He's just had a rough year, but no, Klingberg actually creates a lot of space for the forwards in terms of his offense. You have to remember a lot of these guys too that are offensively gifted and are playing with teams that might not be as offensively gifted, they get more opportunities when they're playing with other guys that match their skill set. So I think it would work out, but I just don't think the Leafs are interested. Chikrin won't happen because of what happened last night on the 32 thoughts in the intermission. If you guys heard, um, no, he definitely would fit in the top four. Like, you're really telling me that we should have Justin Hall over Klingberg? I have n no, not a chance. But the 32 thoughts last night basically talking about, the Chikrin price, I think it was. Yeah, the Leafs are not gonna go out there and try to match that offer. They're talking 3 first-round type pieces, so either a combination of 2 first-round talents that are already NHL ready and a pick. Like, that's basically 3 first rounders for Chikrin, and that's the thing, you still need to have offense from the point. I don't know, at first, I was okay with maybe getting Sherratt just because he is, like, very physical, but if you look at his defensive numbers, that guy's terrible, and he's slow, like, at least with Klingberg, he can move the puck, he's quick, that's it, you know? Like, he'll give you that offense. I think in a perfect world, Manson probably makes sense just because he does have that physical edge and can still play that top 4 minutes, but I just don't think that they're gonna trade for him because why would Anaheim trade him at this point? I don't understand. Why would Anaheim trade him? They're doing very well. Also, I'm not on the Colin Miller train. I don't think Colin Miller's that good, honestly. I've looked into his numbers a couple times, but the Leafs definitely don't need Chara. He's slow. Yeah, but Hamza, what's going on this year with the Leafs defensemen? They're not doing anything. Okay, yeah, I'm not saying defensively that he's good. I've never said that defensively he's good. I said that he would open up offensive opportunities for the Leafs from the blue line, which is what you want because then that opens up your forwards up. There was literally a perfect comment earlier that talked about it. You have to you still have to open up offense from the blue line. And right now the Leafs don't have anybody that's vicious from the point except for Morgan Riley. Nobody else like they don't care. Like the teams don't think that they're a threat. Giordano, I mean, I would welcome it, but um yeah, I mean Giordano would probably make sense. It depends on the cost. Adam Larson, no, I don't think so. Cuz what's his contract looking like? Because dude, I'm going to tell you guys right now, the Leafs can't get anybody with term. Next year they're screwed. They have no money. So they literally can't get anybody with term. Yeah, no. They can't. The Leafs literally might not be able to afford Jack Campbell next year, so they can't get anybody with term. I rarely agree with you. Yeah, I know, Derek. You disagree with literally everything I say for some reason. I have no idea why. Um, because I know you dislike me, but you still come back every time. I don't get it. But um, yeah, you do have to open up opportunities in the offensive zone. No term, they're screwed thanks to Dubas. Guys, I let me just explain this one more time. The the pandemic screwed every team in the league, including the Leafs. The salary cap right now could be around 88 to 90 million dollars. That's a lot of money. They planned for extra money and it didn't happen. Nobody could have predicted a pandemic. Let's be real, guys. Do I agree with all the contracts he gave out? No. But his idea was let's overpay our stars, get them in under contract and build around them. Didn't work because they have no money. So yeah, the flat cap really screwed them. Like really, really screwed them. It's not no, it's yes. Oh, what are you talking about, Derek? They need to move on from Marner. No. Um yeah, nobody wants Mike Smith. The Mrazek deal was basically to keep the number of Jack Campbell's next contract down, and it didn't work. Not everything's gonna work because but by the way, if Mrazek starts to take a chunk of the games from now on and plays like he did last night, the Leafs are fine. But yeah, he's injury prone. You're not gonna win every deal. Like, sure, the Mrazek deal isn't good, but Kasha, Bunting, those are 2 fantastic pickups for this team. Without that secondary scoring, where would they be right now? Mikheyev has been pretty good. That was a deal that was brought in by Kyle Dubas, obviously. The TJ Brody contract, bringing in Jack Campbell in a trade, like, people don't get it. Kampf, like, these are really good pickups. And that Nylander contract looks really good. There's a lot of hits and there's a lot of misses. Not everybody's perfect, and let me tell you something. Dukes, the reason why you would give 3.8 to Mrazek is because the Leafs were not going in with Michael Hutchinson again or Joseph Woll. They need a guy that at least they can play when he's healthy. Yes, he's injury prone, but you have to take that bet. Mike, you don't have any sources. None of us do. What options? And Dukes, I'm just going to tell you this, man. We have no idea who the Leafs offered money to. They all could have said no. Like you can't sit here and act like we know who they offered money to. They could have offered money to Yaroslav Halak and he could have said, "I'm not playing in Toronto." That's it. Like, you can't just be like, "Yep, you're coming here." No, if he says no, he says no. Like, we don't know who they offered money to. And when he's healthy, 3.8 isn't bad, but he's been injured. Why does everybody want Lawson Krause? Yeah, Nyes is gonna be good, like, and people like, again, the picks that Dubas has made in the draft, like, Amirov is gonna be really good. Nyes, excuse me, is gonna be really good. Like, they've done pretty decent. And like I've said before, look at the Edmonton Oilers situation. Are we really gonna sit here and say that Dubas is that bad? The Oilers got Duncan Keith with no salary retention and have Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith as their goaltenders. Like, they gave they gave they gave, Zach Hyman that massive contract, and Michael Bunting, who's like 920K, is putting up the same numbers as him. Like, are we really gonna sit here and say all the moves that Dubas have made is bad? The Oilers, who have McDavid and Draisaitl, who actually had some cap space, signed, um, Tyson Barrie and Cody Ceci. Tyson Barrie and Cody Ceci as one of their pairings. And we're really gonna sit here and say that the Leafs are the worst and Dubas sucks and this, that, and the other. The Leafs are a top 3 team right now in the Atlantic. Yeah, Derek, but the contract was still signed. Like, we're really sitting here, like, saying that a top 3 team in the Atlantic is trash. They just need to get over their demons, and the demons is the first round. Yeah, Cody Ceci, $3.2 million. Good God. I think Robertson needs a shot at this lineup consistently. He is injury prone, but I think they need to give him a shot to play and see if he can hold up. Because if he can, I think it's good. For every solid moves, Dubas has made mistakes. Campbell, Brody, Bunting, Kasha gets canceled out by bad moves. Kadri, Hall, protection, Mrazek signing, trades two first. Okay, some of those moves. Well, Hamza, I think just doesn't like Dubas. Like, there's good and bad, and I've said there's definitely good and bad. But the Kadri move was Kadri's fault. We have to tell it how it is. That was Kadri, and that was my favorite player. I'll remind you, that was my favorite player. Kadri's fault. Justin Hall protection. $2 million for a top 4 right-handed defenseman. The Leafs couldn't let him go. They couldn't because they didn't have anybody to replace him at the time. So they couldn't. And he was just coming off of an amazing year. So, like, I don't really see how you can blame him for that. Mrazek signing, I don't like the signing. Trading 2 firsts, I don't wanna trade away first. But everybody and their mother was saying that Nick Foligno was a perfect fit for the Leafs because they needed leadership, toughness, and a guy that could put up points. He got a fluke injury, and the Leafs ended up blowing a first round pick. In hindsight, trade sucks. But at the time, that was the going price for anybody that was going to upgrade your lineup consistently. Let's get Andrew to 20K so you can buy a essential sweater. I have an essential sweater. Okay, but Dukes, again, he was because other teams were offering first round picks. The Leafs had to beat those prices. We are not GMs. You can say he's not worth a first, but he was at that time. That was the going rate. What the Leafs aren't just gonna say he's not worth a first, and we're just not gonna trade anybody for anybody. They had to upgrade. Foligno made sense at the time, and it didn't work out. Like, we have to give the benefit of the doubt to both sides. The trade sucks, but they had to do it. Okay, but who was worth it then? Who was worth it at the time? Because the rumor has it that Taylor Hall didn't wanna play in Toronto, as much as people said he was wanting to. That's the reason why the Leafs didn't trade for him. So, don't say Taylor Hall because apparently he didn't wanna play here. Needless after everybody said he did, they said he didn't. So who else at the time was worth the first? Yeah, Taylor Hall literally chose the Bruins. Like, he didn't ask to come here. Like, I get it. There's a lot of people in this chat because I can tell in the comments of my videos because I do read a lot of them. People are frustrated, and I'm just as frustrated. We are all the same here. We're all frustrated. We're sick and tired of them losing, making moves that don't always work out. But there are a lot of moves that they've made that have made this team better. This is, and I've said it before, the Leafs, this, excuse me, this upcoming deadline, this is it for them. They have to. They have to upgrade and they have to win around. They have to, or else people are losing their job. And Dubas is probably one of them. Uh, you have to give the benefit of the doubt to both sides. Some stuff sucks, some doesn't. Okay, but you're saying stop doing that. Then what's your suggestion? No cap, no trade assets. Wonton, please tell me you're joking. I've explained in my other videos that they definitely could acquire cap space. They did it last year, and people said no cap. They did, and they definitely can make a move this deadline. That's the whole reason why they waived Richie, and you accrue cap space as you go towards the deadline. The Leafs could trade a guy like Engvall and get $1 million in cap space, get a double retention from somebody, and get a player that's like $3 million. It's it's not rocket science. Richie could get traded too. Like people think he won't get traded. There's been worse players traded. Yes, but you get a guy with no term. You just get a guy for this playoff run. You trade for a guy that is on an expiring deal. They don't have cap space next season. They have cap space to work with right now at the deadline. No, I wouldn't bring in Chara. Look at what Vegas did. They traded for a generational talent like Eichel for Tuck, Krebs, a first and a third. Okay, so how would the Leafs have done that? And again, that's the funny thing too. Like we're just betting on Eichel coming back with a perfectly fine neck. Yeah, no, I mean that's a big risk. I don't know why I wouldn't trade Muzzin at this point. And I hope Eichel comes back and scores 50 goals. Like honestly, I love Jack Eichel. I think he's a great player. Plus, the Leafs wouldn't have had a chance to trade for Eichel. They didn't have the money for that. I don't have more Leaf stuff on my wall because I have a headache from looking at that logo too much. I took most of my stuff down so I could actually relax. That jersey is going right back into my closet. Yeah, exactly. The Leafs could trade Dermott, Hall, and Engvall right now, and they would have a good enough cap space to upgrade. Like, I think people just don't get how, like, easy a trade like, the Mark Stahl got traded. That contract got traded, and they didn't have to break the bank to trade that contract. Trading a guy like Nick Ritchie is not that hard. They would just have to attach a pick. That's it. You're gonna have to attach, like, a 3rd or a 4th round pick, maybe a 3rd and a depth pick, ditch the contract, get somebody in that's gonna play better for you. It's really not that difficult. The Leafs are definitely looking at that. They tried already, and they're going to try again. That's why they put him on waivers. I wouldn't trade Kerfoot, though. I honestly wouldn't. I think he's played really well. Like, hold on. We'll pull up Cap Friendly right now, real quick, for the people saying that they don't have cap space. It's possible. You have to be optimistic here. It's very possible. Yeah, no, Kerfoot's played really well. So, hypothetically, let's say the Leafs trade Nick Ritchie, right? They have to attach a 3rd round pick and, like, a B or C level prospect, right? Which that's the price you pay. So, okay, hold on, I gotta make some roster moves here because this team has too many forwards. Put him on taxi squad. Okay, this guy's on the taxi squad. So, with 7 defensemen, let's say the Leafs trade Nick Ritchie. They would have $1.7 million in cap space. Now, let's say that's what they wanted to go into the deadline with, right? So $1.7 million, if they got somebody to retain 50% on a contract, they could get a guy who's making a good amount of money. That's and you could fit him in there. Like a $3 million contract, you could fit that in there. Let's say they decided, okay, we're not liking the way Travis Dermott's playing, so we're going to trade him away for like a depth pick, something like that, right? They would have $3.2 million in cap space. If they got somebody to retain 50% on a $6 million contract, they could add that player to the team. They have cap space if they make these moves, which is very possible. I'll say it and I'll say it again. Teams have moved way worse contracts. There's teams that will take a flyer on Dermott for sure. He's young, he's cheap. He's just not working out for the Leafs if the Leafs wanted to trade him. You can trade Nick Ritchie's 2.5 if you attach a pick and a prospect just to get rid of that deal. The Leafs could acquire a really good player going into the deadline, or they could acquire two. But they need to get that same thing that they did last year, which is salary retention, which is what they did last year. It's very possible. So we can't sit here and say it can't be done. It's been done a million times. Hell, the Leafs have done it. And people are saying they don't have trade chips. Okay. They've got their first this year. They've got their second round this year. They've got their first in 2023. They've got all their picks in 2023, all their picks in 2024. They've got Amirov if they wanted to trade a prospect. They've got Nick Robertson if they wanted to trade a prospect. They've got who else? I mean, you could trade Nyes, but I don't think that's something they would ever want to do. They have guys. They have guys that they can move. Robertson and Amirov are not just like, oh, like a toss in little thing. Those guys are good prospects. SDA, I don't think he has the value of like a good prospect, but he could be a depth guy. The reason why we're not gonna do that for Chikrin is because of what I said earlier. The Leafs they don't have the cap space next season. Chikrin's on an extended contract. Yeah, Namella too. Namella's a good prospect, but I'd rather that they would keep him. But again, he's a good prospect. They could really move him. I don't think the Leafs want to acquire anybody with term, which is unfortunate, but I don't think they can. That's why I keep saying this is the year they have to go all in with guys that are on expiring deals, and that makes it easier for them to acquire players at 50% retention because teams aren't gonna retain 50% of a contract that has, like, 3 years left. They're only gonna do it for, like, 1 season. I don't Sezikis and Clutterbuck, I mean, there's a lot of names that you could think of. I keep seeing Manson, guys. Anaheim's not trading him. I really don't think so. Gudis, defensively not very good, very physical though. Sherratt, very physical, terrible defensively. I think the Leafs can trade keep Campbell, but it's looking like it's gonna be tough. You can't just say other teams will retain 50% of salary on pickups, but Leafs will not. No, the ups the no, no, I don't think so. Not you're not getting what I'm saying in terms of the 50% retention. Richie Richie has the 1 year left at 2.5, and he's not terrible. He's just not playing well enough. The Leafs would have to attach players to him or a good decent pick to get rid of that contract. Like look at the Mark Stahl trade. The 50% retention is because teams that have good players who are on expiring deals that know that they're not gonna re-sign that player in the offseason, like, they have to get assets for that player. They're not just gonna hold on to him. If they do that, they lose out on the asset. So, there's a difference there. The Leafs kind of need to trade Richie also, but they really don't have to if they find other options. You can trade Dermott and Engvall and acquire that near like over $3 million in cap space, and then bury Richie's contract in the minors. Only about half of it though, that's the problem. Um, Trust me, it's been done a million times before. Okay, this was the trade. So Mark Stahl traded to the Red Wings. A second round pick went to Detroit. So it was a second and Mark Stahl that went to Detroit. Um, and his salary, what was his 6 year? Okay, what was his AAV when he got traded? I gotta look at his AAV. Unless anybody knows before I look. I think it was like in the 4 or $5 million range. Where's his that contract? Oh, it was 5.7. So Mark Stahl got traded at a $5.7 million cap hit, and it was a second round pick to get him. The Leafs have Richie at $2.5 million. If a team that's not gonna compete next year was like, "Dude, give me a free third round pick and like a B to C level prospect, we'll eat that $2.5 million and maybe he can be a tough guy for our team for 1 season." That's a good trade for both sides. Mark Stahl was at $5.7 million, and he got traded. No salary retention. There was a second round pick attached to him, but that's $5.7 million. That's a big jump. Almost $6 million on the books. Yeah, of course. There's gonna be a bit it's gonna be a bit tighter for teams taking on actual money for sure, but teams that are not competing, that aren't gonna have a lot of high salary players, a guy like Richie for like 3 million in actual money probably doesn't really break the bank for them. Like there's a bunch of teams that like look at Arizona. They took on a lot of big contracts and they're not exactly rich, but they still took on a bunch of big contracts. How about Giordano McCann? Hey, I'm not against it, but that would be a big package. That's not actually that bad of an idea. Giordano gives you solid depth on that blue line. He gives you the top 4 option. McCann obviously gives you a top 6 option as well. It would just take a pretty it would probably take a lot. Why is there no room for Gio or McCann? Man, Dukes, listen, you seem like a smart guy, but, like, you're disagreeing with literally everything I'm saying. Why is there no room for those guys? I wanna go back to my cap friendly, like, I don't understand how there's no room for them. You're gonna you have to make Seattle eat the money. There's no okay, so what? What's Gio's deal? How much does he have left on his contract? I thought those guys were both under, no, Giordano's on an expiring deal. I would be more interested in that because he's on an expiring deal. McCann also on an expiring deal. That they definitely would work. That would 100% work. I said Chikrin wouldn't work. I would love Chikrin. He would be 100% my first choice, but the Leafs can't acquire term. Chikrin has years left on his contract. So if you're acquiring McCann at 2.9, you're saying, okay, Seattle, you have to take 50% off that contract. You're saying the same thing with Giordano, but that makes the price of that trade go way out the roof. Like how much is that taking off? So McCann is at 2.940. So you're getting McCann at like 1.47 if you get 50% retention. Now, mind you, that's also if they include a third team into that trade, you might be able to get actual retention on that as well. So you could get double retention. Oops, hold on. 6 by 2 plus 1.4. Mm, it would be tough, but they could make it work depending on, I mean, Geo makes sense. And, Dukes, for some reason, I know you don't like me for some reason, but I've been trying to explain the Chikrin thing is because they can't take term. I love Chikrin. They can't take term. They already bet on Morgan Riley. They gave him a long-term contract. They're betting on Sandin and Liljegren taking a step. That's basically it. Lots of mights and maybes. Yeah, because we're not inside sources. We don't have we don't have sources. We're talking about rumors, fantasy. We're just talking hockey. Yeah, I don't crap on the Tavares contract. I mean, the guy literally took less money to come to Toronto, and he's been, like, incredible. But there's some people that don't like, I don't know, stroking what egos? Who has an ego here? What explain that to me. We're just talking hockey. We all have different opinions. None of us are right, none of us are wrong. I've been s People know that a lot, like, we've done these streams a lot. There's people I know that definitely don't like me, but I don't hate their opinions. It's their opinion. I'm not gonna change their opinion. I'm gonna try to with what I think, and they're gonna try to change mine with what they think. I don't think they could get Seattle to retain. Fair point, Brandon, but why don't you think Seattle wouldn't retain? Because, I mean, they're not a very good hockey team right now, and if they can get good assets like, in for instance, like, do you think they're gonna keep Geo long term? Because I don't think they are, and if they don't think that they can sign McCann to a contract past this season, because you gotta remember, there's probably a lot of players that might not wanna stay on an expansion team. With Vegas, it was different because they were good right out of the gate, but Seattle's not very good. So I'm wondering if McCann goes, "Well, I'd like to play for a contender." Maybe he wants to go back to Pittsburgh. I don't know, but maybe Seattle can't afford those contracts because he might want big money. Yeah, Hurdle, I mean, it just depends on how big the price would be. Yeah, but Derek, if you have a chance to get both, I mean, why not? Do I think it's possible? I don't know. I don't have sources. I mean, I have a guy that, like, works for one of the 2 big brands, but he doesn't, like he's only really told me a few little things, but I'm not allowed to really say anything. Not from this year, from previous years. But I don't go to him for, like, information because I don't wanna burn that bridge, like, that's terrible if I'm just like, "Hey, man, tell me the rumors." Like, it's his job. I don't like, I'm not gonna be like, "Yeah, tell me everything you know so I can spoil it, because I don't wanna burn that bridge. Because 'Cause I'll say, the one guy that I talked to, knew about the whole Tyson Berry thing before it actually happened, and he told me it was gonna happen, and I really didn't believe him, to be honest with you, even though he's, like, pretty well known. Like, he's a pretty well-known source, and people love him, and I was like, "I don't know, like, I don't know about this." And then it happened, and I'm like, "Oh boy, he told me before it happened." It was so cool. It was one of the coolest things ever, but I can't say anything because I don't think he was supposed to know either. Oh god. I'm trying to get him on the channel though, and if I do get him on the channel, I'll ask him if he can tell that story because we still communicate, which is cool, but not about rumors and stuff like that because I don't wanna burn that bridge. They are interested in Calvin DeHaan? See, personally haven't seen that, but again, I don't see everything for sure. I definitely missed quite a bit. Um, I don't see anything about the Leafs and Calvin DeHaan. It makes sense, technically. So um, the 4th period, David Pagnotta, or Pagnotta, I always say his name incorrectly, said that the teams interested in Calvin DeHaan is the Oilers, Panthers, Islanders, Minnesota Wild. So nothing about the Leafs. No, and not Evander Kane. And by the way, teams can afford Kane technically because he'll probably sign for like $950,000 because um his contract got terminated. I don't think he'll sign for a big amount of money because he needs an opportunity. If he signs, there's no way he gets more than like $2 million because he's just going to sign a contract for the rest of the season. I don't think he'll get very much money. Ristolainen is I think Ristolainen's not very good, in my opinion. I think defensively, he's not very good. I could be wrong. I don't think he's very good. I'm trying not to stroke my ego apparently because apparently that's what's happening in here. I mean, me and Dukes don't agree, but I don't think that either of us are stroking an ego here. I think we're just talking hockey. He might not like me, but I don't think either of us are trying to stroke an ego here. Colin Miller, I don't know. I talked about this earlier. I don't really know if I'm high on Colin Miller. I think his asking price, like, in a trade would be a lot, but I don't really know if it makes perfect sense for the Leafs. I wish I was right about everything. Holy hell, I wish I was right. Unfortunately, I am far from it. We all get things wrong. Okay, Dukes, this is what I mean. My logic is because the Leafs can't afford Chikrin's contract next season. They could afford it this season, and between you and I, we both agree that Chikrin would make the most sense. 100%. He's elite, absolutely elite. But then it ties the Leafs up next season where they don't have the money to pay a guy like Jack Campbell unless they move on from multiple bigger contracts, which I don't think the Leafs want to tie themselves into. That might be a move that they look to make in the offseason if they can clear out cap space to get somebody like Chikrin. But this season, they can't do that unless they really feel like they can fit him in next year, which I personally don't think they can. Um, I think Gio and McCann only make sense because they're on expiring contracts, where so they're not tied into a deal next season. You might be able to renegotiate with them and see their dollars, but I don't think either of them would be able to stay Maple Leafs, whereas Chikrin would be a locked in contract. Fantastic, love Chikrin, but I don't think it makes sense. Because they're hoping that Sandin and Liljegren take a step next year in order for them to have less money tied into their top 4 or their top 6 because they'll have Riley, Brody, and Muzzin as the staples, Sandin and Liljegren taking a step, and then signing probably a bruiser like Bogosian type defenseman, excuse me, next season. That's just my idea. I don't really know if that's what they're thinking. Again, neither of us, nobody knows what they're thinking unless they're actually close with them. Um, I mean, sure. I mean, yeah, that's in my head. That's what I'm thinking. If you move Mrazek and Richie and those guys, whatever, sure, then yeah. But then they still have to fill that backup goalie spot with somebody that if um like what backup goalie right now is available that they could bring somebody in? Yeah, but Dukes, I'm talking about right now. The Leafs need to make this upgrade this season. Like they need to make that upgrade this season. I think Robertson could be ready for full-time NHL next year, but they have to give him that opportunity right like now to see. Joseph Woll, I don't know. I'd love that, but I don't really know. Like, sure, Chikrin is very, but why not make the chicken upgrade for this season and then some? I mean, sure, try it, but then if the Leafs get tied up next year, then Jack Campbell goes, "I'm out," because then this also happens. Look at what happened the first time with Patrick Marleau. The Leafs, like teams around the league, knew the Leafs had to trade Patrick Marleau. He had that $6.25 million deal that Lou Lamoriello signed. That was a terrible contract for that third year. And the league said, "Look, man, you have Andreas Johnsson and Kasperi Kapanen as free agents who just scored 20 apiece for you, and you need to sign them because they're integral parts of your depth scoring." And Carolina said, "Guess what? If you want to trade them, you need to give us that first round pick." And Dubas probably was like, "No." And they probably said, "Good. So can't wait until you lose Johnsson and Kapanen." And then they had to make that deal. So if the Leafs go into next season and go, "Damn, we need money for Jack Campbell. Can we trade Peter Mrazek?" A team's gonna go, "Hey, man, we kinda need a Mirov and a second round pick and a fourth or whatever." They're gonna take them to the cleaners, and the Leafs are gonna look stupid again. So it's just I don't want them to be tied into next year. You know what I mean? But again, I would love Chikrin. I would want him the most. I agree with you. I would want Chikrin. Yeah, and that's the other thing. If you look at the current roster, you have to let them go for Chikrin, plus you have to trade other players in order to accommodate that contract next season. And then you're taking a gamble with guys like Robertson and I mean, maybe Josh Hosang sticks around and you're able to keep him. And that's another option. But again, I would if the Leafs traded for Chikrin, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to be like, "Damn, that's awesome. Let's go for it." And worry about next season next year. But if I'm just thinking about next year too, then it becomes a problem. I mean, you could trade Muzzin in the offseason, but maybe some teams don't have that same value for Muzzin as the Leafs do. That's the risk that you're taking. Oh, now we got DTSB in the building. More people will be happy to see you here. Hosang, I think, is a real option next year. Maybe Robinson, but you'll need to replace like 5 more roster spots. Yeah, that's that's the problem. I'm sure DTSB and I will do something pretty soon. Pavelski and Klingberg, I mean, would cost you a lot. It would definitely cost you a lot. I wish I could add him, but the way I set up this stream is just with my webcam. YouTube's got to fix that. You should be able to add people into this. Tyler Toffoli? I don't know about that one. I don't know. What's the deal looking like for that? I think it's probably not possible. Yeah, Pavelski is I'd love Pavelski. Almost said Tavelski. Yeah, no, I don't think they would do the Toffoli deal. But what's Richie gonna do in the playoffs? Because he hasn't been doing anything in the regular season. Like, it's the same thing with Wayne Simmons. Like, I love Wayne Simmons, but man, that like he's actually been more like getting offensive opportunities than actually doing anything physical. Sherratt is slow and is terrible on defense, unfortunately. Because at first I was blinded by the Sherratt stuff until I seen his actual defensive numbers and thought, oh boy, whoever gets him, it's gonna be a bad trade. Different game in the playoffs. I mean, I don't know. I don't really think Richie makes the most sense. I mean, yeah, the Leafs need to upgrade. That's what I keep saying is that they need to upgrade. God, it's already after 6 already. If the Leafs are able to also trade Mrazek, damn, they would have a lot of money, but they're not gonna do that. Yeah, but the thing is there's a difference between old guys that can't play and old guys that can play. Like, Jason Spezza is still a pretty damn good hockey player. Are the Bucks actually making a late push? What's the score? Oh my god. 27-20. Oh boy. Dude, if Brady pulls this off, oh god. That's crazy. Alright. Wait, who fumbled it? This are you guys messing with me? Who fumbled? I'm not even, like, a big fan. I love the one and dones. Like, 1 game elimination is crazy. Who's got the ball right now? The Rams fumbled the ball? No way. That's crazy. That's crazy. Dude, oh god. Guys, I'll be honest with you guys. I think I've been on here for an hour and 5 minutes talking by myself. In terms of just talking to the camera, you guys are typing, and I really appreciate that, but, I think I wanna watch the end of this football game. Um, but I appreciate you guys. Even the people that don't like me and disagree with me, thank you very much for stopping, in and chatting with me. I appreciate it. Had some good battles with some people in here. Um, but I wanna do this. I said this before. I wanna do this, like, once a week, and maybe we can get some guests in here to talk as well. But I really appreciate you guys, stopping into the stream. I'm gonna go now. Like I said, I've been on here for an hour and 6 minutes, um, so thank you. Appreciate it. Um, you guys, again, like I said, even if you don't like me, I appreciate you guys stopping in, and, you guys are great. I really do appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new. I don't know if there's new viewers in here, and, yeah, go Leafs go. Peace.